Geek to Me Radio, da 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 da. Geek to Me Radio, da 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 da. Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new edition of Geek to Me Radio. Today we're joined by Turnbow of SciFi.Radio, talking all about that platform. We'll then be talking with Alan Porter from the James Bond Lexicon, digging into the lore of 007. All that and more, stand by.
It's pronounced Turnbow, by the way. Like a turn to the right and a bow and arrow.
And if you're driving around the greater St. Louis area right now, hearing this on the big 550 KTRS, thank you for staying tuned in after Outdoors Dan. Then we've got Turnbow with us. Turnbow, I pronounced it the wrong the first time. Sorry about that. We're going to talk all about Sci-Fi.Radio. I do want to give a shout out to all the moms out there. If you're wondering why, if you're streaming this on YouTube or Twitch TV or Facebook, I'm not wearing my usual geek t-shirt because I took my mom out for brunch today. So hello, Mom, if you're listening. Thanks for being one of the best moms out there. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there right now who might be listening. We're going to get right to our guest here. He's in charge of SciFi.Radio. He's going to talk all about that platform. We'll probably geek out about some stuff, too, while we're there. Mr. Turnbow, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Oops, let me get rid of the other. I have the other thing playing. Sorry. I think usually Joey's here with me helping out, and I'm trying to run all of it by myself, and I'm failing horribly. Let me try that again. Gene, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
There you are.
Excellent. Yes.
So SciFi.Radio, tell everyone who's maybe not familiar with SciFi.Radio a little bit about what you guys do over there.
Well, SciFi.Radio is the name of the station, and it's also the URL. We're the world's only full-time 24-hour-a-day geek culture sci-fi radio station. You have a great radio program, but your listeners can only get to listen to you a couple hours a week. We're on all the time.
And it's such a variety of programming, too. You've got, like, live DJs. So this used to be, I know, Krypton Radio, and you just rebranded in January, correct?
That's correct. We rebranded January 25th, and as soon as we did that, we got a big bump in our listener base because apparently people were looking for Sci-Fi Radio and they couldn't find it. So as soon as we named ourselves what they were looking for, all of a sudden, Shazam!
Well, there you go. And there's a lot. I mean, the Sci-Fi umbrella that covers a lot of territory. From everything from Star Trek, Twilight Zone, going out forward to like Firefly and things like that. So what have you found? I mean, how do you gauge listenership? Do you have like demographics and everything on who listens, how many people listen, how long they tune in? Like, what do you use for your statistics?
That's actually a good question. A lot of radio stations actually don't have direct access to this information. But we wrote, because we're an internet radio station, we can see the connections as they come and go. And we've written our own reporting system where we can check the time of day for whichever show we have scheduled and see exactly how many listeners we had for that given time period. We can also track in general where people are listening, tuning in from, and how many connections we have overall. And right now, we are averaging 1.5 million listener connections a year.
Wow. And obviously that's worldwide. So that's one of the benefits of, I know with like we're on KTRS and we do stream it so people can go on the internet, but what a game changer that's been for people who want to listen to alternative programming and things like that. With now we have the internet where if you're out of range of the radio, you can always just pull up the website and stuff like that. But for an internet thing, that is what you guys do. That's access to so many people who can log in and gain access to your programming.
Absolutely. We have free player apps for every smartphone. I think the most common ones are probably the Android and iPhones, but we have ones for tablets, and we're working on one for the Alexa and Google Home systems as well, and one for Roku.
So you can just say, "Hey Alexa, play Sci-Fi Radio," or can you actually call out an individual program that might be playing at that time? Or
no, it just the name of the radio station. We have an app, and we had to pull it because it was working great, and then Amazon changed something under the hood and broke it.
Oh no!
So we're trying to figure out exactly what happened. So rather than leave it up on the skill store, we pulled it so that people wouldn't get frustrated. People wouldn't get frustrated and say, "Oh my God, this thing is a piece of junk. It doesn't work." So rather than do that, so.
And thank you for saying junk and not the other word that could have been said, because that's another question. You guys aren't really bound by FCC regulations either. It's the internet. So can you guys have a little more loosey-goosey with things, or?
We could if we wanted to, but we try to avoid that. We have listeners all over the world from all age groups, and sometimes we'll get messages from one of our listeners who's like 12. We have listeners from the entire age range. It covers the entire appeal of science fiction, really.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that drove the people who were doing demographics on the original Star Trek series absolutely nuts. They were trying to figure out, what's the average audience? Well, they couldn't figure it out because it turned out that it appealed to everyone from 12 to 85. And so we're sensitive to that. So we try to play, we have the same standards that you have for live broadcast. No boo-boo words.
Right.
We watch our language, no explicit themes. And we're carried by iTunes and Stitcher and a lot of these other carriers, and they kind of have the same kind of rules. They don't like adult content because everybody's listening. So we have to follow the same rules. Yeah, we have to follow the same rules.
You can go, but that's not necessarily what people want either. I think it's
Sure.
You know as well as I do that you can have a good show and have a clean show and not really need all that stuff.
I think people lean a little heavily on the adult gritty. It's really easy to be gritty. It's really easy to be blue. You don't have to be entertaining.
Right.
And there's so much in science fiction and fantasy that doesn't rely on that. And there's really no need to go in that direction. So we have everything from Star Wars to Star Trek to Babylon 5 and Firefly, as you mentioned. And we have a lot of the obscure stuff as well. We have fan-made music, which I think we're the only radio station that plays that. It's called filk music. It's the word was coined in the 1950s. It started out as a typo. And it stuck. So any kind of music made by and for fans using fanish theme, especially if it's a familiar tune where they've rewritten the lyrics, with comedic effect, that falls squarely into the filk category. So we have a lot of that. There's a surprising amount of it. And it's actually, come to think of it, that's one of the reasons there are no other radio stations like ours, because there's just enough content out there that you can make a radio station with it. And anybody else who tried to do what we're doing would end up sounding exactly like us.
Yeah, and I think it's, I should say we've got a couple of chats. Oh, Christian Basil, I think you know Christian.
Oh, sure, I do.
Yes, that he's a man, he craves adult content, and there's nothing he does that is adult, though. So knowing Christian, I can attest that is true.
Christian Basil, Legend of the Traveling TARDIS.
That's
the show
right.
got its start on SciFi.Radio.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing gangbusters. Just broke 1,000 YouTube subscribers, so good on Legend of the Traveling TARDIS.
And 30,000 plus followers on Facebook.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing what he's built. It's I love the stuff, and it's Doctor Who centric. Right. And Legend of the Traveling TARDIS is actually one of the highest rated shows on SciFi.Radio.
And again, that just speaks to that love of Doctor Who. And Doctor Who, I think, is another show like Star Trek that you mentioned that really, there's a huge age range, because there's people who are older than me that remember, Patrick Troughton as the second Doctor, all the way down to people who got their start with, they may have started now with Jodie Whittaker, and there's, little girls who are watching Doctor Who. So that runs the gamut as well. So
who was your first Doctor?
Technically, I remember when I was really little flipping through Channel 9, and it was technically Peter Davison, because he was, they would show an occasional episode. Usually we'd see Tom Baker on there, though. But my first, when I got into Doctor Who, I started with New Who. So technically my first Doctor was Eccleston.
Oh, okay. Well,
what about you?
It's a great start. My first Doctor was my first Doctor was Tom Baker. So yeah, so he played the role for 7 years. So that was
at it for the longest.
Yeah, he did. He absolutely did. And I got a chance to meet him. He was over in the United States for Doctor Who. Doctor Who conventions a couple of years. In 1979, I want to say. And so we were running conventions at the time, and I got to meet him because of that. Yeah, he's on the list, because I would love to meet him. I know he doesn't travel very much anymore. But yeah, if he ever does make a con appearance, I'm flying to wherever it is, Dubai, London, whatever he decides to do to meet him for sure. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. You're okay to stick with us for another segment, correct? Absolutely.
Good. We're talking with Gene Turnbow of SciFi.Radio. If you are listening right now and you have a question you'd like to pose, or maybe you have a question about SciFi.Radio, maybe you have a show idea you want to pitch, or just a question about their content, you can text us at 84126 on the KTRS text lines. You can also, we actually have open phone lines. If you want to call in, it's 314-931-5877. We're going to take our first commercial break. We'll come right back, chatting more SciFi.Radio with Gene Turnbow. Please stand by.
I struggled with symptoms like frequent gas and stomach pain for years.
I was bloated all the time with daily diarrhea.
At first, I thought it was what I was eating.
I kept thinking it was stomach issues.
So I did my research and talked to my doctor, and we finally uncovered the truth.
It was actually EPI. Exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI, is a condition where your pancreas is unable to help break down your food.
It can lead to symptoms like diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, unexplained weight loss, and oily stools.
And EPI symptoms can be confused with those of other common digestive conditions, like irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, and celiac disease.
So getting to the right diagnosis meant being more open with my doctor about the severity of my symptoms and how often they were happening.
But there's good news. EPI is manageable, so don't wait any longer. Use the symptom checker at identifyepi.com and schedule a visit or call with your doctor to ask, could I have EPI?
Sponsored by AbbVie.
Here's the dirt on dust. It may seem fine, but it's actually made of dead skin cells and dust mite droppings. That's where Swiffer heavy-duty dusters come in, with thousands of specially coated fibers to trap and lock dust in one swipe. Dust can't hide on ceiling fans and bookshelves anymore. When you're done, just remove the disposable cloth and voila! That dust is gone for good. Now that you know the dirt, say goodbye to the dust. Swiffer heavy-duty dusters. Stop cleaning. Start Swiffering.
Gotta finish this today.
Cristiano's construction projects typically run smoothly, but this project's pipeline is about to burst.
So boss, you want us to put this to the left. Your other left. John,
Indeed can help him hire the people he needs.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job.
Here we go.
Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, this is Gates McFadden. Now don't tell my space son. but I always listen to Geek To Me Radio. Do it.
Had to play the Gates McFadden liner because my online show, those of you who are listening right now on the live radio show, I do an online show as well. It's still Geek To Me Radio, but you can find it on my website, geektomeradio.com, or wherever you get your podcasts from, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Apple Podcast, wherever. And we've actually got a show coming up. It'll drop Tuesday or Wednesday, I believe. And it's featuring Ming Chen of Comic Book Men from AMC. And then we're going to have a nice talk with Gates McFadden about a brand new podcast she's launching called Investigates. Who Do You Think You Are? So make sure you check out geektomeradio.com and bookmark that page so you can check out the interview with Gates McFadden coming later this week. Right now, we're talking with Gene Turnbow of SciFi.Radio, all about his platform and all the programming he's got. So when you guys have your programming, when you set up things, how often does programming change? Like, do you have people who come in and do it for a little while and then come out and you've got other people waiting to fill the slot? What's turnover like? Just kind of talk a little bit about programming, if you could.
I would say that our programming, it's constantly evolving. First of all, we're constantly getting new music from movies and new games that come out and the stuff that the fans make. So SciFi.Radio is a constantly evolving internet radio station. We get a lot more submissions for content than we can actually use. And so we have to be pretty selective about how many talk shows we take. And I would say each one of these shows lasts on average about 2 to 3 years. We have some that have been running for 6 or 7 years. But on the whole, I'd say a new slot opens up about every 18 months.
Okay, 18 months. That's
something like that.
So I know Christian's been with you for quite a while, and the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS,
Yes.
which we talked about earlier. Is he your longest running person who's been on with you, or is there someone who's been on since the beginning?
No, I'd say the longest running one has been Gary DeBaum. He does Gary DeBaum's Random Acts of Tunage on Mondays, and he does Gary DeBaum's Friday nights. And he's been with us since, I think, 2000, I want to say 2000 and 2010.
Oh,
so
wow.
He's been with us a long time. SciFi.Radio has been broadcasting continuously since April 10th, 2009.
Huh.
So we're coming up. Let's see, April, May. Yeah, I think we're up to our 12th anniversary.
Wow, happy anniversary! Had I known, I would have
thank
done
you.
something. So and again, that's the great thing about the internet is people can do this from all over. They literally turn on their computer like you and I are. Like, do you have someone from outside the United States who's part of your program lineup?
Yes, we do. We have Mr. Vestek of Mr. Vestek's Outpost. He broadcasts from Ireland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The conceit there is that he's on an abandoned shipping station, trading post out in the far edge of the asteroid belt, and he bounces his signal off a graviton beam that arcs his signal towards Earth, and we get to hear him once a week every Wednesday.
Well, that's exciting. I'm lucky he's got a graviton beam. Otherwise, that wouldn't work out at all.
Oh yeah, it's great fun, and he's the other show that we've had for a long time is Gary DeBaum. No, not Gary DeBaum. I've already talked about him. Sean Crosby, and his morning show is Good Morning Tatooine, and that's available every 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific time. I guess that's 12 to 2 Eastern time. And he is a music historian. There is almost nothing he doesn't know about the history of music in show business, and it's always an entertaining listen.
And is that mostly is it music? Because I would think it sounds like Star Wars talk, but is it a little bit
right?
of both?
It's a little bit of both. He is a dyed-in-the-wool Star Wars fan, of course, and his he is a Star Wars character. I guess you would say a cosplayer, but that's not quite the word I would use. He does 160 charity events a year dressed as Obi-Wan Kenobi. And he has a Star Wars car that he shows up to at these events and takes it to auto shows, and he drives all around the country with it. So he helps a lot of people, and we're very lucky to have him. And he has, with his wife Colleen Crosby and their friend Jeff Donahoe, they have a show called Docking Bay 94 that's on every Thursday at 7 p.m. So, and they've been with us. That show has been with us for 6 or 7 years. So, and that's all about Star Wars and Disney, because they're Disney fans, and, you know, going to the parks and what's going on in pop media and all sorts of stuff.
And now that Disney owns Star Wars, that's the perfect marriage anyway.
Yeah, it really is. And she's a costumer, and she's just an incredibly good costumer. So between the two of them, they have some in-depth knowledge. And I think one of the most fun things about running this radio station is all the great people I get to meet and interact with that I would never have the opportunity to meet with otherwise.
Yeah.
I go to conventions, and there's this panel that I'm frequently on. It's called Full-Time Creativity on a Part-Time Schedule. And we go to Comic-Con and WonderCon and present that every year. And I get to meet people who want to break into creative ventures, and join up, and do what we do. And it's just an incredible thing to be able to spark these people's imagination.
Sounds like a panel I need to take a part of. I think I need to definitely listen to that at some point. So if we ever cross paths at a convention. So speaking of conventions, do you have some on the books? They're starting to open back up now that we're seeing the light at the end of the COVID tunnel. Do you have any that are on the ledger?
Well, let's see. I think we've got LosCon, Los Angeles Science Fantasy Convention. That normally happens in November, but I think they're pushing it off to no.
They are Thanksgiving weekend.
They are Thanksgiving weekend here in Los Angeles.
Same legend, same as Chicago TARDIS then.
Yeah, probably.
Bad news is San Diego Comic-Con on the same weekend.
Yeah, and San Diego Comic-Con, I don't think we're going to be able to go to. It's just
I think
it's a little bit too much of a stretch. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to conventions opening back up. Though that's one of the things I definitely missed. The last convention I went to before COVID hit was Gallifrey 1 in Los Angeles. So it's nice to see all of these cons starting to come back.
Yeah, they're sort of starting to trickle back in. I think this is one of the things that's one of the things that I think gives SciFi.Radio its appeal is that we're more or less a convention that you can take with you wherever you go. It's sci-fi convention in your pocket. Just turn it on, and it's a constant companion. We're always there. Just hit the play button, and away we go.
Yeah, I like that. And you talked about all these great things. If you had to say, before we let you go, I know we're wrapping up towards the end of the segment. I don't want to keep you for too much longer, but what is the hardest part? Like, obviously, it sounds like a great job. You're getting to oversee all these sci-fi shows. Obviously, it's not all fun and barbecues. What's the hardest part of your job that people might not even realize is something you have to contend with?
The hardest single part of running SciFi.Radio is paying for the whole thing. We have a Patreon campaign, and if you go to SciFi.Radio, that's actually the URL for it. You will see a big orange Patreon button, and you can help us stay on the air. $5 a month goes a long way, especially if you've got a whole bunch of people. If this would really help us out. If you want to help keep SciFi.Radio on the air, we are 100% listener supported, 100%. And we don't get funding from the National Public Radio or anything like that.
Right.
So we're completely independent. So we depend on this entirely to help keep us on the air. And that's probably getting that to happen every month so that we can stay on the air and get people paid for their work is the single hardest part of keeping this thing going. So far, we've managed it, 12 years on the air, knock on wood. But that's got to be the toughest part.
So if you're listening right now and want to help out, it's SciFi.Radio, and the Patreon link is right there. Otherwise, if people want to keep up with you, and your website's probably the best place, but you guys are on Twitter and social media.
Yeah, we're on Twitter. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're all over the place.
Perfect. It's always great to talk to people like who I feel like we're in a similar thing here. It's kind of like our passion. And this is kind of what we love to do. So if you want to keep up, again, SciFi.Radio, make sure you support them. Make sure you just check it out and listen, because there's a lot of fun programming to be heard, especially that Legend of the Traveling TARDIS show we mentioned. That's not a bad show either, so make sure you check that one out for sure. But Gene Turnbow, this has been great. Thank you so much for your time. Continued success to you, and hopefully we'll run across each other at a convention. I can sit in on that panel you've got and learn some stuff.
Absolutely. I love your show, and thank you for having me on as a guest.
Absolutely. Anytime. We'll have you back on, maybe in another, we won't wait 12 more years to do it. We'll just have you on, we'll make it a regular date.
Excellent. Thank you again.
Thank you. And again, if you want to keep up with SciFi.Radio, that's a great way. You can just listen to it, or you can go and support it. Like you said, $5 a month, that's not a lot of money. And you're helping out a lot of these content creators who really, really are putting their passion into it and effort as well. We're going to take our next commercial break. We're going to come right back. We're going to chat with Alan Porter of the James Bond Lexicon. So make sure you stick around. And again, the text lines are open, 84126. If you want to text in a question, we'll be right back.
Is it time to make a change with your lawn equipment? Hi, this is Frank.
All right, let's get my other guest on, hopefully.
Next time you're ready to do lawn work, have the next best thing to a professional lawn crew waiting for you. Reach for the tools they rely on. Echo Outdoor Power Equipment. For power and durability, season after season, Echo Power tools have been the choice of professionals for years. Every engine delivers the highest performance rating.
And Joey just texted me, evidently this camera mic is on, so they can hear everything we say through the camera mic. So if you're streaming this online, you're hearing the behind-the-scenes talk. How great is that? So yeah, we're just going to see if my James Bond guest gets on here. Put another spot in just in case, actually, because I don't see him popping up yet.
314-961-4522 in Webster Groves. For address, hours, or to shop online, Schnars.com. It's easy when you start at Schnars.
Mother's Day is this weekend. My mom loves a great filet mignon and scalloped potatoes, and I think I'll make her something special this weekend. Send your mom exactly what she craves this year. The mouth-watering Let's Go Grill package from Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com and enter keyword rare in the search bar to order today. This package includes our signature butcher-cut filet mignons, apple tartlets, and so much more. Plus, she'll get a tasty bonus of 12 ultra-juicy Omaha Steaks burgers free. That's almost 4 pounds of free burgers. To top it off, you'll also get $20 off on your first order. Treat mom to the best steak of her life, guaranteed. Visit omahasteaks.com. Use the code RARE in the search bar and give your mom something she'll love. Plus, get 12 free Omaha Steaks burgers and $20 off at checkout on your first order. The Let's Go Grill package is selling out fast, so don't wait and miss out. That's omahasteaks.com. Keyword rare.
Looking for a slot machine gaming experience like no other? Signature Tap House Restaurant and Bar, located in Fairview Heights, Illinois, has you covered. Come try our new secluded gaming lounge, where you'll love the money it dishes out. While you're there, enjoy lunch, happy hour, or dinner, where our food and specialty drinks are unlike anything in the St. Louis area. Signature Tap House Restaurant and Bar, located by St. Clair Square Mall in Fairview Heights, Illinois, or visit signaturetaphouse.com.
Hi, this is Dean Devlin, Director of Bad Samaritan, and you are listening to Geek To Me Radio.
Dean Devlin, also the director of Leverage, brand new show. If you're a fan of the old series, they're bringing it back on July 9th. He just announced on his Twitter. Very excited to see Christian Kane and all the gang back, Aldous Hodge, and everyone coming back for that new Leverage that we're going to be enjoying. Want to make sure we tell you about our official movie sponsor, Marcus Theaters. MarcusTheaters.com is the website. If you go there, you can find the Marcus Theaters or Movie Tavern location closest to you on the website. You can purchase your tickets right there, get movie reviews and more. Huge shout out to the brand new Mid Rivers Mall location that just opened up this weekend. Thank you to Brian and Keith over there who set us up with a private screening of Wrath of Man. We all had a great time. You can get food cooked to order there and enjoy the big, huge, comfy Dream Loungers. Every seat there at the Mid Rivers Mall location is a Dream Lounger seat. And they've even got the heated ones and the big DXL screens you can go enjoy. Great place to see Movie Tavern or Marcus Theaters. And if you download the app on your smartphone, if you're watching this on Twitch TV or YouTube, you can see I've got the app right down there, the Marcus Theaters app. You can download that. You can even order your concessions through the app and your tickets. Get your tickets when you walk in. The concessions will be waiting for you for a more contactless experience. And as we always say, Marcus Theaters, the best movie-going experience in the galaxy. And it's definitely the place I'm going to go to see No Time to Die, which I think my next guests here will be excited to talk about that. We've got Alan Porter and Jillian Porter from the James Bond Lexicon. How are you both tonight?
We're doing good, thank you.
Good, thanks.
Thanks for having us on the show,
Good.
Jamie.
Thanks for being on. I thought I was only getting Alan, so I'm excited that Jillian's with you too. That's great. So talk a little about. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say I made us stay up late.
So are you guys on the East Coast or is this?
We're Central.
Central. Okay, so you're the same. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, I always, when I have East Coast people on, I try to be cognizant because I know it's a little bit later, but that's great. So we're in the same time zone. That's perfect. So talk a little bit about the James Bond Lexicon, how the idea came up and what prompted you to do this.
Okay, so for folks who don't know, just going to the James Bond Lexicon is a small 400, which is basically a dictionary of the fictional worlds of James Bond. It's a guide to Bond's world in movies, novels, comics, and TV. So it's not a encyclopedia of like the actors and the directors and stuff. Lots of people have done those. This is a encyclopedia of the worlds within which James Bond sort of works and operates. What prompted it basically is I'm a complete geek. Well, we actually both are for these sort of fictional encyclopedias. I think it started with the June Encyclopedia when we were both at college. Jill's a big Agatha Christie fan. She has a couple of Agatha Christie type encyclopedias. We've got Batman encyclopedias, Wonder Woman encyclopedias, the whole range of them around the house. And you know, this was like one of those invisible gaps on the shelf. It was like, you know, there was encyclopedias about the James Bond movies. There was an encyclopedia that covered the novels of Ian Fleming, or a book that looked at those. But there was nothing that brought the whole franchise together. So we wanted a book like that, so we set out to write one.
And there's a lot of the stuff that people don't think about, like I was looking at your website and like the comic books. I had to go back through and look at my collection after I watched your website, and I was like, I do have For Your Eyes Only from Marvel Comics. I do have that in my collection, and I actually have the Showcase comics from way back in '63 that featured Dr. No. So it's kind of cool to see all those little pieces kind of brought together in the book.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And so if we had to get into James Bond, I'll go ahead and we'll get the easy questions out of the way first. Jillian, if you want to go first, who is your favorite actor to play James Bond?
That's a difficult one. I really like Pierce Brosnan, but I also think Timothy Dalton brought an awful lot to the role that is very unrecognized. Yeah, he was definitely and I wish we could have gotten a third movie with Timothy Dalton, because I think that whole obviously the litigation happened and we didn't get another one. I'm sure he would have been on board for it from the sounds of it, things he said in other interviews.
Yeah, my answer is pretty much the same. My favorite one is Brosnan. I think he was the epitome of all the other Bonds together. You know, suave, sophisticated secret agent, as he's talked about in the movie. And he clearly has fun in the role. I mean, he's smiling a lot, and he clearly enjoys enjoys being James Bond and still enjoyed the fact that he was James Bond. He's one of the few that does. And I think Timothy Dalton was probably the closest we've ever got to the Bond of the Ian Fleming novels. So.
Yeah, my sister, for my birthday present one year, she got me, it's a reproduction of all of Ian Fleming's original novels with the original slipcases and dust covers and everything like that. And I sat down and blew through. I read them all in, I think, the span of like 4 months. But it's really kind of gives you a different insight if you're just a movie fan and watch the movies versus if you read the books and kind of have that slightly different perspective on the movies. Have you found that to be the same?
Yeah, I mean, we talk to a lot of people who are big fans of the movies who have not necessarily read the books, and he's a very different character in the books. Obviously, the basic essentials of the tropes are there, but he's much more of a plot device rather than a really developed character. But also, in the books, he's the he's not the Superman. He's not the walking encyclopedia like Roger Moore is, or he's not the Superman who doesn't get hurt. He spends a lot of time learning how to do things. He doesn't have as many gadgets, and very few gadgets, in fact. It's a lot more traditional spy stuff. But you also got the other stuff that Fleming was really good at, which was like the travel logs and the food and all that sort of side of it. So he's a very different character in the books than what he developed into in the movies.
So you said you're obviously you like James Bond, you're invested in it. How much research, how far did you actually visit GoldenEye? Did you go that far to walk in Ian Fleming's shoes? How much research and everything did you go into, and how long from conception to actual publication did the book take?
10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And yes, we did go to GoldenEye.
Definitely a comprehensive look at James Bond then of 10 years.
Well, we had a few stops along the way for different issues. So it didn't technically take 10 years, but it was over the span of 10 years that we got it done. And then we were lucky enough to go to GoldenEye, October 2019.
Wow.
Sit at Ian Fleming's desk and...
That's actually the photo on the back of the book. I don't know if you can see that. That's the two of us.
Yeah.
That's the two of us sat at Ian Fleming's desk, where the actual desk where James Bond was created. So that was a pretty cool moment. I guess. Yep.
So with James Bond being so popular, did you have trouble, once you got the book done, did you have trouble shopping around and finding a publisher? I would think with, James Bond being such a huge franchise and the money-making machine that it is, that we know it to be, I would think that publishers would have been lining up. Did you have trouble with that aspect of it?
We sort of didn't. When we originally started the project, it was actually with a friend of ours who had already published 2 other lexicons on other pop culture franchises. And I sort of said to him, I love what you've done with those 2 books. We got them on our shelves. How about a James Bond lexicon? And he was like, yeah, great. So that sort of got us going. And probably around 2015, we were almost ready to go publish. And then Jill got sick. So we stopped working for a couple of years while we got her through that. And then unfortunately, the co-publisher, our friend's business partner, died unexpectedly. So they decided to mothball the publishing company. So now we're with an almost complete manuscript, but no publisher, and we're sort of back to zero. But another friend who I do podcasts with, he actually has his own publishing company as well. And we were just talking, and he said, well, I've never done anything this size, but I'll take it on for you if you want. So it actually turned out to we were lucky, and both the publishers that we dealt with initially and finally was actually relatively easy to work along, because it was people we've already had a good relationship with. So. But the initial response, we've been out, it's been out just about a month now, has been great. It's been fantastic.
And I feel like you can see, I don't know if it's the rise of social media or what it is, but a lot of fandoms have sometimes become a little toxic. We have the Star Wars people with the schism there, the DC Comics people, Zack Snyder camp versus the people who don't like Zack Snyder's movies. I don't feel like there really is that, I don't want to say toxicity, but there's not that schism in the James Bond fandom. It seems like people, you like Sean Connery better? Okay, great. I like Pierce Brosnan. People go their separate ways. Have you found any sticklers to that theory that kind of pop up? And actually, there are some toxic Bond fans out there.
There's the odd one or two, but I will say the Bond community, the Bond fan community, clearly not easy to say. The Bond fan community is actually very open and very welcoming. And as you said, very open to different views. Quite often we have completely opposite views to other people, and generally you can have a very good informed conversation and people are like, oh, okay, you like this film and I don't. That's fine. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. I think we all enjoy James Bond, like the James Bond stuff, and I think it's just degrees. I've been involved in other sort of areas. I've done work on Star Trek and Batman and Sherlock Holmes and things like others. I know Jill's been involved with some of the Agatha Christie forums and stuff online, and I think the Bond community is probably the most welcoming of those various fan communities that we've been involved in over the years.
Yeah, I would agree with that totally.
And we just had Gene Turnbow from SciFi.Radio on previously talking about Doctor Who and things like that and all the sci-fi genre. I feel like there's an overlap with James Bond and sci-fi because he has the gadgets and there's people like Hugo Drax, taking over space and things like that. So there is a lot of sci-fi crossover with James Bond, which is kind of a nice kind of synergy going on.
Yeah, definitely. I've actually done a couple of panels at various conventions over the years talking about whether James Bond is sci-fi.
What's the consensus been? Did people?
Generally, it is. I mean, you get a few of the hardcore science fiction fans who sort of mutter under the breath and go never. But you've only got to think about movies like Moonraker, space battles and lasers.
Right.
Is it serious science fiction? No, but is it sort of pop culture light science fiction? Yeah, I think it is. I know a lot of Bond fans think about the fact that Bond lives in a sort of a parallel universe to us. It's sort of hyper realistic, I think is the phrase. So yeah, I think there's definitely a sci-fi, certainly a light sci-fi element to it. Yeah.
And we're talking right now with Alan Porter and Jillian Porter. If you're listening on the Big 550 KTRS, if you have a question, a Bond-related question or anything else, you can text us at 84126. Standard texting and messaging rates do apply. You can also call the KTRS hotline at 314-931-5877. We're going to talk James Bond for the rest of the hour. So with this book you've got out, there obviously you had to have it so it would satisfy hardcore Bond fans, but also someone who's just kind of got a passing interest, and they may be browsing at the bookstore on Amazon and be like, oh, you know what, that is kind of cool. So how did the two of you draw that line where it's going to be appealing to both crowds?
I would say what we try to do is make sure, well, one, we try to cover a broader spectrum as possible of, I think we've covered like 271 different Bond stories across all the different media in the book. But what we tried to do was make sure each of the entries in it were self-contained to the extent that you understood the context. You didn't have to be a deep Bond fan to understand each individual entry and what they were talking about. So there was enough information in there to tell a little story, but also the right context. So you don't have to be sort of completely steeped in the lore of Bond to understand and get the relevance. So we try to make it like that. What we've heard from a lot of folks is, people who sort of keep it on their desk and then will on the nightstand and just sort of flick to a page at random each day and sort of read a couple of entries and go, oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. And then you've got the other folks who are reading the Fleming books and want to know a reference, and they're diving in and, looking specific things up. So try to sort of keep both use cases in mind. But like I say, our real driving thing was to make sure that every entry could be read on its own and be understood by somebody who didn't necessarily have a deep Bond knowledge.
And there's that, there could be a compendium when it comes out, maybe with a gift set where it's a James Bond fact-a-day calendar. You do a tearaway thing, and there's your next fact. So just throwing it out there, a little more money in your guys' pockets if you want to come up with that idea.
That's a great idea.
That's how I had a chemistry one when I was in high school, and I learned a different chemistry fact every day, and I actually passed high school chemistry that year, so it must work.
Yeah.
We do actually put on our Bond Lexicon Twitter account, we do put an extract for a little entry every day on the Bond Lexicon Twitter account. So if you follow us on there each day, you'll get a little snippet of an entry every day.
And that's at Bond Lexicon is the Twitter handle, correct?
Correct, yes. Yeah.
And we're talking all things James Bond right now. Are you okay to stick around for another segment if I take a commercial break and come back?
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. We're talking with Alan and Jillian Porter. We're going to come right back after these words from our sponsors here on Geek To Me Radio. Please stand by.
I struggled with symptoms like frequent gas and stomach pain for years.
I was bloated all the time with daily diarrhea.
At first, I thought it was
This is a pleasant commercial.
I kept thinking it was stomach
Lovely.
issues.
So I did my research and talked to my doctor, and we finally uncovered the truth.
It was actually EPI. Exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI, is a condition where your pancreas is unable to help break down your food.
It can lead to symptoms like diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, unexplained weight loss, and oily stools.
And EPI symptoms can be confused with those of other common digestive conditions, like irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, and celiac disease.
So getting to the right diagnosis meant being more open with my doctor about the severity of my symptoms and how often they were happening.
But there's good news. EPI is manageable,
9,
so don't wait any longer.
58:30.
Use the symptom checker at identifyepi.com and schedule a visit or call with your doctor to ask, could I have EPI?
Sponsored by AbbVie.
Hey, is the outdoors calling you? The head on down your one-stop outfitter, Denny Dennis Sporting Goods.
That's done. That's done.
Turkey season will be here quick. Let Denny Dennis Sporting Goods help you catch more fish. See their selection of new rods and other tackle that will give you more confidence on the water. Denny Dennis has the latest turkey gear, including Elimitic clothing, calls, decoys, and blinds. See the newest selection of slate, mouth, and other calls that will help you bag that big one this year without breaking your wallet. Elimitic clothing by Game Time will keep ticks and chiggers off you while sitting in the woods turkey hunting. They have ammo, Winchester loads, and a large shotgun selection always in stock. Bow hunters, don't forget to test the most efficient bows ever made, including Matthews, Elite, and others. No matter if it's fishing gear or outfitting your next hunting trip, Denny Dennis Sporting Goods has you covered. At number 1 Gravois Road in Fenton, right next to the old Gravois Road Bridge. 636-343-9447. You'll be on your way to a good time in the outdoors.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman. You're listening to Geek To Me Radio.
And we're back. Make sure if you are going to buy some Batman comics, you check out Justin's Comics. Brand new sponsor we picked up for the month of May, Justin's Comics in St. Charles. You can look them up online, justinscomics.shop. And he's got more variant covers than any comic book store I've ever seen. So if you're trying to find that hard variant cover of a certain issue that you want, check out Justin's Comics. If you're here locally, he's right off of First Capitol in downtown St. Charles. You can check him out. Check the hours on his website. He does 25% off new comics every Wednesday, so it's a great place to go get your comics, and your dollar is going to go a little bit further. He's got a big sale going all throughout the month of May, and we're actually going to have Justin in studio next week to talk about the business. It's a lot of comic book shops come and go. He's been around for a while now, and it's because he knows how to treat his customers and run a good business to make people come back and buy more and kind of build that relationship. Check him out again online, justinscomics.shop. Best place to go get any of your comic book needs. Speaking of books, we're talking right now with the authors of the James Bond Lexicon. We're talking with Alan Porter and Jillian Porter all about that. With the new movie coming out, I know it's been delayed, I feel like more times than New Mutants was in theaters. We've been waiting on No Time to Die for a while, which is going to be allegedly Daniel Craig's last outing as 007. How excited on a scale of 1 to 10 are you, the two of you, for this movie?
For the movie or the fact that it's Daniel Craig's last one?
Either or. We'll take the first one, and we'll talk about the latter.
No, I'm looking forward to it. I think 6 different dates we've had so far. I think this is the one I'm most confident about. I'm hoping it will come out in October. It comes out around the same time as my birthday, so that will be a nice birthday present if it actually does come out on time this time. And I was sort of half joking, but neither of us are particular fans of Daniel Craig's tenure. So the fact that this is the last one of his, I'm looking forward to seeing where the franchise goes next. I'm hoping it has a slight change in tone going forward. So, but from what I've seen of the trailers, this one looks like it could be pretty good. But I thought that about the last one. So
same feelings on your part, Jillian?
Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect to Dan Craig. I like him in other things. I just don't particularly care for where they've taken the character. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see it, as I've been excited to see all of them. I think there'll be a level of relief of finally it's going to, you know, actually be shown, and that will be cool.
Yeah.
And then we can all talk about it, because one of the things with the book is we kept holding off, thinking, we'll wait till the movie comes out. And then in the end, we're like, no, you know, it's been delayed so many times. We just have to, you know, draw that line in the sand and put it out there. So, as I say, that's another thing that delayed the book, really, was that. But yeah, no, the trailers look very cool, and hopefully the movie will be as good as we all want it to be.
And I know a lot of talk about how, and they kind of got into it a little bit with GoldenEye, where M calls him a sexist, misogynist dinosaur, a relic of the Cold War. And it really was a different state for Bond going forward after the Cold War ended, when you got GoldenEye kind of address that. And I feel that the Craig movies have gotten a little bit more into Bond as a character, like actually kind of fleshing it out, which I don't know if I need. Some things are okay. The formulaic, he meets the girl, he meets the villain, he loses the girl, someone gets killed, he blows up the guy's base and sails off at the end. I don't like things necessarily be complex. And I wonder if James Bond, because people have said before, we need a female James Bond, but I think that kind of takes away from what James Bond is. We get some great movies that are Bond-esque, with like Atomic Blonde that came out a couple years back. I love that movie. It was great. And it was essentially a female James Bond. So what are your thoughts on the evolution of James Bond in film going forward?
I agree. I actually heard something the other day that I thought was a very smart statement, that basically what we've had is when James Bond is successful is when they make the same movie over and over again, but they just do it in a different it's the same. But as you said, I mean, you just pretty much outlined a James Bond movie there. Something cool happens at the beginning. He goes into M's office. M says there's a bad guy about to do something. Here's a file. Go stop him. Bond goes out, meets the girl, meets the bad guy. Beds the girl, blows up the bad guy's base, ends up in a dinghy. Hopefully. And that's a James Bond movie, and that's what, a lot of them have been, but they've told really interesting stories around them. But what they've always done is push the envelope a little bit. It used to be that Bond used to lead and all the other franchises used to follow. And I think at some point that got inverted. You could discuss at what point that happened. But I think definitely since Casino Royale and that they've tried to follow what the other tentpole movies have done. Build an interconnected continuity. Bond never had one. You didn't need one. Like I said, Fleming's Bond is really a plot device rather than a character. But in the movie, they felt they had to start building all this backstory, which nobody really wants. The whole point about Bond really was that it was somebody that you wanted to be or live in that world, or put yourself in that world. You didn't need the backstory of him being a particular individual. It was sort of a mold you could pour your imagination into. And I think by giving him a very specific backstory, they've sort of taken that away. Certainly for me, anyway. He's not. Like I said, one of the reasons I like Pierce Brosnan is that he is that sophisticated, stylish secret agent, and the Daniel Craig Bond is not. That's he's a very tough, blunt instrument, as they actually talk to him about, and I don't think he's stylish, and he doesn't have the wit and the humor and stuff. And I think that's not necessarily Daniel Craig's fault. I think it's just the way it's been developed, and to try and keep up with things like Mission Impossible and the MCU and things like that, and Bourne. And I think they should have just stuck to, let's make James Bond movies, not try and do what everybody else is doing. So I'll get off my soapbox now. For Bond 26, whenever we get it, I'd love to see them go back to the formula, but keep looking forward, not trying. Like, I think one of the things that went wrong with Spectre was they looked backwards and said, well, what worked before? Let's try and do that. And they threw all those cliches and tropes in, and it just lost everything, instead of keeping the formula and looking forward as to how they could take that formula and do it a little bit different moving forward. So
I often refer to Spectre as Diet Skyfall. I just felt like there's kind of more or less the same thing, similar theme song, everything. But we've just got a few minutes before we wrap things up. Again, we're talking with Alan Porter and Jillian Porter of the James Bond Lexicon. Best place to buy it, I would guess, be the website. Do you put people to Amazon? Obviously, we always say support your local bookshop if the local bookshop can order it for you. But your website and Amazon are probably the best places, yeah?
Yeah, we have a companion website called the JamesBondLexicon.online. And if you go to the book page, we keep a list of all the links. So all the global Amazon sites there. If you're listening around the world anyway, you can buy it from your local Amazon. We also maintain a list of independent bookstores and services that have it, and also a service like bookshop.org, where, you know, if you can order it online, but they actually source it through your local bookstore, so the local bookstores earn money as well. So all the Amazon links are there, and all the as many independent bookstore links as we can find are on there as well. So just visit the website, and you can find the link of your choice to purchase a copy.
Perfect. And the website's a nice little whet your appetite, because there's a lot of cool information there and stuff that I didn't even know. And I consider myself a James Bond fan and a Bondophile, I guess, if that's a thing, but very informative, just the website. So I can only imagine how good the book is. Again, it's the James Bond Lexicon. Alan and Jillian Porter, this has been great. Thanks so much for your time tonight. And we'll have to have you back on again for volume 2 of the encyclopedia, yes?
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, James. It's been fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
And before we let you go, we want to make sure we mention our other sponsor, the premier sponsor of Geek To Me Radio, the City of St. Charles. That's the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau, with hopefully the light at the end of the COVID tunnel starting to shine. People are getting back out. People are traveling. People are wanting to experience stuff again and kind of live life. So the good place to do it is the City of St. Charles. If you're from out of town and haven't been, a lot of cool places to see. If you're a foodie, a lot of great restaurants to explore up and down South Main. There's all sorts of places you can go no matter time of day, and it's a lot of happening all the time. If you're a history buff, it's one of those places where you can walk up and down the cobblestone streets and see the historic placards that are on the buildings. They have festivals that go on several times throughout the year, and Elizabeth Phelps and Ryan Cooper do a great job of bringing those festivals to life. And literally for Christmas traditions, people come from around the world to that event. People plan their holiday around it. We've had people come from Finland. We had a couple from Russia come last year. It's it's something you really have to see and take in. You can plan your trip now. Go to the website discoverstcharles.com. That's discoverstcharles.com. And if you're from the greater St. Louis metropolitan area, head on over, bike ride the Katy Trail, take your dog out for a walk on the cobblestone streets, and just have some fun. The website, once again, discoverstcharles.com. As we always say, it's an historically good time. We'll make sure we talk about the online show, geektomeradio.com. We've got this week coming up Ming Chen from AMZ's Comic Book Men and Gates McFadden, Dr. Beverly Crusher on the show. Thanks again to my guest tonight, Gene Turnbow of Sci-Fi.Radio, Alan Porter and Jillian Porter from the James Bond Lexicon. Until next week, my friends. Thank you, MI6 headquarters. Good night.
This is the Big 550.